Guys, welcome back. Today we are going to continue with our Sigmar theme of chaos, talking about Khorne Bloodbound. From the maelstrom of a sundered world, the 8 realms were born. The formless and the divine exploded into life. Strange new worlds appeared in the firmament, each one gilded with spirits, gods, and men. Noblest of the gods was Sigmar. For years beyond reckoning he illuminated the realms, wreathed in light and majesty as he carved out his reign. His strength was the power of thunder. His wisdom was infinite. Mortal and immortal alike kneeled before his lofty throne. Great empires rose, and, for a while, treachery was banished. Sigmar claimed the land and the sky as his own, and ruled over a glorious age of myth. But cruelty is tenacious. As had been foreseen, the great alliance of gods and men tore itself apart. Myth and legend crumbled into chaos. Darkness flooded the realms. Torture, slavery, and fear replaced the glory that came before. Sigmar turned his back on the mortal kingdoms, disgusted by their fate. He fixed instead his gaze on the remains of the world he had lost long ago, brooding over its charred core, searching endlessly for a sign of hope. And then, in the dark heat of his rage, he caught a glimpse of something magnificent. He pictured a weapon born of the heavens, a beacon powerful enough to pierce the endless night, an army hewn from everything he had lost. Sigmar set his artisans to work, and for long ages they toiled, striving to harness the power of the stars. As Sigmar's great work neared completion, he turned back to the realms and saw that the dominion of chaos was almost complete. The hour for vengeance had come. Finally, with lightning blazing across his brow, he stepped forth to unleash his creation. The age of Sigmar had begun. That seems like an awfully Stormcast eternal centric way to start off our Khorne army book. I'm not so sure about that. As the hosts of the heavens sallied forth from storm-split skies, a new and bloody age began. War was born upon the winds of every corner of the realms. The Stormcast Eternals brought vengeance and retribution, their goal nothing less than the total annihilation of their hated foes. For some Chaos worshippers it was a time of defeat, hopes of victory ripped to shreds like clouds amidst a hurricane. Yet the Bloodbound, worshippers of the blood god Khorne, stood firm before the storm with feet planted and howls of exhilaration torn from their throats. Let the Stormcasts come. It had been long since Khorne's chosen faced a worthy foe. As the war for the realm gates began, conflict exploded upon battlefields beyond number. The Bloodbound fought against vast hordes of screeching Skaven, bellowing mobs of bone-chewer Uruks, and countless stranger foes. Yet all these conflicts paled in comparison to the furious clashes between Bloodbound and spears of Khorne tore into the fight. Their wrath was a furnace-hot gale to match Sigmar's own raging tempest. Where the two collided, incredible violence ensued. Thus were prior battles forgotten, eclipsed by the promise of conquests more bloody than any that had come before. Khorne Bloodbound. It is a time of madness and horror. The mortal realms writhe in the grip of the Chaos Gods, whose murderous champions fight furiously to extinguish the last lights of hope. None wreak greater carnage nor battle harder in their god's name than the savage hordes of Khorne's Bloodbound. Like a headsman's blade, the Bloodbound sweep down upon their foes with terrifying violence. The ground shudders at their onset, for they come in numbers fit to flood the land. The harsh blare of bone war horns and the savage chant of war cries roll before them, mingled with the reek of spilt blood. The Bloodbound charge on through clouds of arrows and blasts of sorcerous power, trampling their own fallen in their eagerness to kill. When they smash headlong into their foes, they do so with a mighty rending crash. Axes rise and fall, blood gushes, and those who stand against the blood god are slaughtered wholesale. Throughout the mortal realms, voices beyond count scream praise to Khorne. Everywhere, ragged knights and tribal warriors daub themselves with the blood god's rune, fighting and killing in his name. However, though any warrior may offer up his soul to Khorne, only those who prove worthy are chosen by their god in return. These are the Bloodbound, the most powerful, belligerent, and murderous of Khorne's devotees. And they are a curse upon the mortal realms, greater than any other. Tribes, cities, and nations have been toppled by these brutal reavers, and oceans of blood have been shed in Khorne's name. Since the Age of Chaos began, the Bloodbound have plagued every realm. They have rarely known defeat, for their ferocity is almost unstoppable, and over the centuries they have rendered extinct all those mighty enough to oppose them. Even as Sigmar's Stormcast Eternals launch their first devastating strikes against the forces of chaos, the Bloodbound are far from dismayed. Here, at last, is a new foe that can challenge them in battle. Against the Stormcasts, every head hacked off is a tribute fit to earn Khorne's deadly favor. Now begins the true war for the realms, and the Bloodbound welcome it readily, with axes in hand. The Blood God. Khorne's might eclipses even that of his dark brothers Nurgle, Tzeentch, and Slaanesh. Violence and murder are the sources of the Blood God's strength, and all who raise weapons against their foes further his glory. Thus does Khorne's power grow ever greater as the Realmgate Wars rage. Mighty embodiments of destruction and anarchy, the Chaos Gods reside outside of the mortal realms. They are eternal beings of near limitless power, demonic abominations that seek to corrupt and dominate all they survey. Just as they are ever at war with the mortal realms, so do the Chaos Gods vie with each other for mastery. In this conflict, it is Khorne the Blood God who most often stands ascendant. Khorne is depicted by his worshippers as a towering warrior, so vast that he blots out the very stars. His monstrous form is heavy with corded muscle and clad in interlocking plates of baroque brass armor. Khorne's visage is the snarling muzzle of an enraged warhound, his eyes fiery orbs of boundless hatred and endless rage. The blood god sits upon a monumental throne of skulls, from which he bellows a never-ending call to war that rings throughout the realms. At his side rests a colossal sword, known variously as the Ender of Worlds, the All-Slaughterer, and countless other equally doom-laden names. A single swipe of this gigantic weapon can split reality in twain, erasing whole cities from existence or exterminating entire armies of unbelievers. So does the blood god show his displeasure. Within the realm of chaos, the domains of the gods wax and wane with the power of their patron deity. Khorne's hellish kingdom has long been the largest. At its heart stands the Brass Citadel, a veritable mountain range of bastions, battlements, and forges built around the blood god's throne. Beyond the citadel's defenses of iron-bound walls and moats of gore, Khorne's realm spreads away in all directions for leagues uncounted. It is a fractured, ashen wasteland of cracked bone plains, jagged ravines, dark fortresses, and thundering volcanoes, across which the demons of the blood god wage their endless wars in his honor. Surging from between the towering jade trees came a horde of beastmen, thousands upon thousands of bestial warriors, raising their voices in a single primal battle roar. Rushing to meet them, the Bloodbound howled challenges of their own, beating their weapons together until the air rang with the deafening clangor of Khorne's own forge. The two armies crashed together with earth-shaking violence, the clash of weapons and the scream of the dying creating a hellish cacophony. Cornate wrathmongers plowed through the beastmen's ragged ranks, with their wraith flails spinning. Blood splattered in all directions as the chained hammers smashed skulls and shattered limbs. Behind them came a screaming wall of blood warriors who plowed headlong into the scattered gores. The center of the beastmen's line of battle buckled inward under the furious onslaught, hundreds of hacked and mangled corpses falling to be trampled underfoot. Undaunted by the ferocity of the slaughter, the beastmen fought back. Fresh waves of warriors loped from the shimmering jade forest. Bray shamans hurled bolts of dark magic that blasted blood reavers to ash, while a wedge of bestigors hacked their way into the blood warrior lines. More Bloodbound charged into the spreading melee, any pretense of order or discipline evaporating as combatants from both sides chopped, battered, clawed, and bit. Blood ran in rivers until the churned mud of the battlefield turned a dark red. Meanwhile, high above, the ominous clouds roiled and boomed, echoing with the approving roars of mighty Khorne. The Bath of Skulls. Khorne demands absolute devotion from his worshippers. He has naught but scorn for the weak and merciful, reserving his favor for those who shed blood in his name. Khorne respects only strength and savagery, and bestows mighty gifts indeed upon those who display sufficient quantities of both. Khorne is worshipped not through prayer, but in bloody battle. While war rages, Khorne's power waxes strong, and so his devotees seek conflict at every opportunity. The faithful know that Khorne cares not from where the blood flows, and will fall upon one another if no other foe is present. There are many reasons why mortals turn to the worship of Khorne. For some, there is no choice. Either they are born to tribes that already venerate the blood god, or their cultures are subjugated by those who do. Others see a fast route to power, for what could be easier than giving in to the aggression and violence that lurks in the hearts of all men? Great warriors, primitive hunters, and strong seeking dominance, and weak seeking strength, all turn to Khorne in search of power and, perhaps, eventual demonhood. At first, the rewards seem great and the price small. After all, what warrior, newly imbued with strength and rage, would deny Khorne's demands that he turn these gifts to killing? These aspirants soon find, however, that the blood god's greed requires more from them every day, dragging them down an utterly unforgiving path of slaughter and destruction that eventually sees them entirely lost to bloodlust. At its heart, the worship of Khorne is a violent, selfish road that winds through battlefields beyond count. Each Khorne worshipper chases his own personal glory with little thought for those who fight at his side. Many fall, cut down in battle while trying to prove their devotion to the blood god. Yet the greatest among them prevail, becoming powerful enough to pass one of the 8 archaic trials of Khorne and become one of the Bloodbound. Deemed worthy by their baleful god and blessed with his dark gifts, these warriors begin their perilous climb towards true power. Should they win sufficient favor, any one of the Bloodbound can ascend to become a Deathbringer, a Blood Stoker, or one of the other champions of Khorne. Such ascension to power brings with it great reward. A champion may gain strength beyond mortal comprehension, an armored hide that can shrug off the blows of mortal blades, or a mighty demonic weapon to wield. Yet the worship of the blood god also brings terrible risks. Khorne brooks brookes no failure from his champions, and the slightest misstep can end in hideous damnation as the angry Chaos God strikes down those who have failed him. Once a warrior has become bloodbound, his path can end only one of two ways: rising to eternal glory or a violent, bloody death. Arbax screamed as he slew, howling Khorne's name with each crunch of his axe through Sigmarite armor. The Blood Warrior used his weapon to hook aside a Liberator's shield, his return swing scything through the gold-armored warrior's neck. The decapitated Stormcast dissolved into crackling energy that arced skywards, and Arbax felt Khorne's eyes upon him. At his side, Vorgos, his last surviving comrade, was fighting with equal fury. As Arbax watched through a red haze, Arbax, Vorgos shrugged off a thunderous hammer blow to his chest and planted his axe in the faceplate of the last remaining Stormcast. The Liberator flashed away, and Arbax returned, gaze roving the corpse-strewn battlefield for fresh foes. He never saw the blow coming, sudden agony exploding between his shoulder blades as he was thrown face first into the mud. Snarling, Arbax managed to roll himself over, only for Vorgos to plant one brass-shod boot on his chest. As the other Blood Warrior raised his axe for the killing blow, Arbax spat hate-filled curses at him. Yet it was only right. The strongest prevailed. Blood for the Blood God. With that last thought, Vorgos's axe came down, and Arbax met his end. As the age of chaos raged on, howling hordes of Bloodbound burst from the 8 points, descended upon the mortal realms at the head of the chaotic hosts. With Sigmar's alliance in tatters and the God King's forces locked in a fruitless war against Nagash, the people of the realms were forced to look to their own defense. Mighty gates rumbled closed, enchantments binding them tight. Arcane engines hummed to life, giving power to protective wards. City guards and militia hosts, in their millions, closed ranks and readied blades. They didn't stand a chance. With the servants of the other dark gods close on their heels, the Bloodbound smashed their foes' defenses asunder without a second thought. Gates crashed down, cities burned in hellish pyres, corpses piled higher and higher until blood-soaked mountains of carrion loomed over the land. And so it continued for years, then decades, then centuries, with no end in sight. Civilizations beyond number fell beneath the axes of Khorne's chosen. Time and again, some proud chieftain or shining hero declared himself the scourge of these rampaging murderers. Time and again, his skull found its place at the Blood God's feet. So terrible were the conquests of the Bloodbound that Khorne rose to prominence amongst the gods, and even his dark brothers shuddered at his might. The Great Slaughter. The Age of Chaos saw civilizations topple and anarchy reign. A veil of fear and superstition fell across the realms, yet some histories survived. Even now, in the Age of Sigmar, dark tales are told around flickering fires and in tattered tomes of the horrors wrought by the Bloodbound and their allies. Amid the valleys of dawn, a swath of shattered crystal and glass spreads for 100 miles where once stood the Sanctum of Stars. Tribal legends tell that here the Brotherhood of Sacred Radiance guarded the spark of knowledge for 1,000 years. Then came the Bloodbound. The war horde known as the Brass Skulls burst from the realm gate at the Sanctum's heart, falling upon the Brotherhood with wild fury. Though the priests fought back with sorcerous powers, they were slaughtered mercilessly, and the Sanctum of Stars toppled in ruin. Amid the labyrinthine caves of echoing rock in Gur, crude cave paintings wind through the tunnels for leagues on end. They tell of a time when the Uruks of the Iron Tusk Rampage made common cause with a Seraphon host to battle the Bloodbound and their Skaven lackeys. For 3 days and nights, the Uruks and the Seraphon fought side by side against the war horde, known as the Red Butchers. For a time, it seemed the Chaos forces would be hurled back in defeat. Yet hope failed when the whirring cogs of an Arcanabulum rose from the earth, the mechanism's strange powers spurring the Bloodbound on. A terrible slaughter ensued, and the death toll so great that the Bloodbound were able to raise the bastions of bone that still surround echoing rock to this day. Wherever the Bloodbound rampaged across the mortal realms, death and destruction followed. It was they who overcame the bone-shard behemoths of Hollow's Reach and sacked the cities that festooned their megalithic forms. It was the Bloodbound who felled the Chronohydrian amid the night woods, following a trail of rebirth to its cavern lair and hacking off its horned heads. The Bloodbound even crushed the beast-claw ogres of Mournful Valley, along with the rotted warband of Bustus Flob, who sought to claim the ogres' lives for Nurgle. 1,000 such tales abound, bellowed with pride by the dark seers of the Bloodbound, the slaughter priests, even as they are whispered by the folks of the realms. Once, the city of Shimmer Guild stood proud upon the slopes of volcanic Mount Athenor. Behind sorry about that. Behind the city's towering walls, great spires, laboratories, and libraries rose in profusion. Yet 1,000 years of wisdom and glory were cast down with the coming of the Bloodbound. Like pooling blood, the numberless hordes of the Crimson Fury massed around Mount Athenor, until their pounding war drums drowned out the thunder of the volcano itself. Finally, on the 8th morning, the Bloodbound attacked as one, surging up from the volcano's slopes. This was no conventional siege, but a single insane attack where numbers and naked ferocity would win the day. Though the Shimmer Guild legions killed hundreds of Khorne's faithful with clouds of golden bolts, the city's great gates were smashed flat by skull crushers, and twisted warriors poured into the slaughter. Blood sluiced down the streets as the city's defenders were slain to the last, and their skulls piled high before their burning libraries. By nightfall, the city of Shimmer Guild was no more, its culture reduced to ash on the wind, and the skulls of its people offered as tribute to mighty Khorne. And that is where we are going to bring this video to a close. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or sharing one or both. And I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.